Hi, this is a Friday afternoon, August 7th update on the search results for Disinfectant on the Google US search engine. As always, the thoughts in this video are just mine, and in making decisions, consult an SEO professional or your trusted SEO team for the best information for your situation. Okay, all right. I wanted to look at something that I thought was pretty dramatic by one of the sites in this model, namely the New York Times. And this is where you really have to be using a search engine model to see this kind of stuff. Okay, we're going to be using the Brew search engine model technology as always. If you haven't learned about Brew, go ahead and head over to marketbrew.ai and you can check out what they have to offer. All right, down here, basically the summary of this search engine model, you can see that so we have three sites in this model that we've tracked over the last month. The CDC, New York Times, and USA Today. And you can see on this model a dramatic collapse by the New York Times. You wouldn't notice this on any other platform out there because we don't get these query scores anywhere. So all we see usually is rankings 1, 2, and 3. But in this case, because we're using the search engine modeling technology, we can actually see how close or how far away each individual ranking position is. And here's the previous model rankings back in July 9th. The New York Times literally had less than a couple percentage points off the CDC's disinfectant landing page, and then just a month later, they dropped down to 7% away. 94% away from the CDC. So there's just a dramatic drop in the query score against this individual ranking position, this number 2 position in the model. And again, these are the model positions. You can see that they currently represent, I think, number 3, number 17, and number 23 on the target search engine environment, which is currently set to the US version of Google. So what happened here? Why did the New York Times drop from 98% to 7.9% in 1 month, which is just dramatic? You see, obviously there's probably a lot of potential reasons out there, and from the New York Times perspective, they might not even know that this has happened. Their ranking position, I haven't actually checked the actual target search engine results, so they could have slid somewhere between 17 and 23 on the target search engine environment here. But in the model here, you can clearly see that whatever's happening is it's not good. And so I was just looking through. I wanted to see exactly what this was, what was going on here. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to point out here is the URL for the New York Times has changed in this model, right? So before it was this interactive URL, and now it's this disinfectant coronavirus URL. And one of the things that we're going to see here is the effect of the internal linking structure of a site and what it can do to either pool or sort of distribute away ranking power or importance, if you want to think of it that way, from the eyes of a search engine, from one part of the site. And this is exactly what happened with the New York Times. The New York Times essentially had deployed a ton of these interactive URLs, and this is just the beginning of it. We caught the very early stages of their rollout here in July. So we basically have this, this interactive stuff, these URLs starting to get crawled by Google, and obviously by this Brew tool. So this basically what we're seeing here is when we had a few of these and they were very targeted, they were doing very well. Now what you see, if we let's go over to the link flow balance screen here for the New York Times. For those of you who don't know what link flow distribution is, essentially this is the internal linking structure of this subdomain. So think of it as sort of once the backlinks arrive to this subdomain, where does that backlink power, if you want to think of it that way, we call it link flow instead of Brew. Where does that link flow go within that subdomain? And this gives us the distribution. So for every unit of link flow that comes into the subdomain, almost 1% goes to this could my symptoms be COVID-19 landing page. 0.95 in the number 2 position, 0.82 all the way down. You can see obviously it just keeps going and going and going. It's sort of a long tail. All right, so what we see here though is, and this is off the last crawl, is there's a ton of these interactive pages, right? Look at this. I'm coming down here. It's still going, still going. I mean, it is just, we've got at least 70 or so interactive in the model here, which is, again, it's a sampling of their site. So this is a tremendous amount of these interactive URLs. And what happens when a site starts doing that to a part of their site, essentially creating lots of content without any focus of that ranking power to or from or away from that part of the site, you get this very sort of a death of 1,000 cuts type of an effect, right? You have all these interactive pages, and now instead of just having a couple of these interactive pages that could rank really well against other pages like the CDC was showing, now we have a bunch of very low power pages, lots more of them, but individually they're lower in power, and it looks like these are these interactive URLs are so different that they're not canonicalized, right? So we can't consolidate that. The market brew model obviously is not showing that any of that link flow is being consolidated between that grouping of interactive pages. So these are all separate nodes in this link graph that are essentially bleeding the site to death. And when we see this, let me go over to my the dashboard. Let me pull this up here. All right, so this is the data dump out of market brew. So I'm just filtering a bunch of data here. You can, every input and every output inside of market brew is snapshotted in time. So you can always go back and kind of look at whatever you want to look at. I wanted to take a look at these two URLs. So this is the one that was ranking really well before, and this is the one that wasn't ranking very well. I think it dropped 80 or 90% in query score. So what we can see is all these pages have always been here, right? So this, I think we initiated coverage on market brew model here in about tax season here, April 15th. Well, it wasn't tax season this year, but essentially the pages that you're seeing here didn't just all of a sudden appear or disappear. What did happen was the link flow changed, right? So the link flow distribution, and you can kind of see this in here. So it peaked on June, right? And remember, we had a very good, it was like 0.2%. If we go back over here to look at these previous model rankings, or I'm sorry, 2% between the number 1 and number 2 positions. And this is on July 9th. So if we go over here and look at July 9th, you're coming off the tail end of the peak of this link flow distribution. Essentially, on June 11th, it had the most importance assigned to it from all the other pages inside of the New York Times site. As it has historically ever had. And it started coming back down off of 0.96 to 0.66, then to 0.5. So as it starts tailing off, this page can no longer hold enough importance or ranking power on this page to factor in to support that overall query score. That there's all these other parts of the search engine model that create this query score when you're searching for something on a search engine. So what ended up happening is this dropped so low that this page just all of a sudden started showing up. And I can illustrate this very easily. Let's go over to the, let's go back to the analysis group, and I'm going to pull up the search here. All right, so here's the 3 sites in the model, and we can see this is the current one, right? So there's 100% is the number 1 position, all the way down to here, a huge drop off, right? Now, there's an option in market brew here. There's a thing called show duplicates, and you can actually click on this, and what it'll do is it'll remove the filter, the duplicate filter that modern search engines have, like Google. In other words, Google doesn't like to show 100 pages from the CDC before it shows another site, right? They have a limit to the number of pages that they want to put from any given site in their search result pages. So this is basically an illustration of what would happen if you remove that filter. You'll see that CDC owns the number 1 spot, the number 2 spot, the number 3 spot, 4, 5, the top 5 positions, and then it's the New York Times site, right? So the 5th worst or the 5th best page for this query beat out the #1 page from the New York Times. So the CDC's got 5 all-stars here that are doing better than New York Times, and that's because the New York Times no longer has that amount of ranking power going to this landing page. It's sort of death by 1,000 cuts. We've got now a bunch of pages that have been diluted enough that they no longer are going to be up in this range here. So what we've seen is the pages have come down so far, and we can keep going all the way down here, and we'll probably see the old page, maybe down in 15, 20 range. Let me scroll down here. Let's see. Yep, here's the New York Times. So this is it right here. It's in the number 23 spot, down with 2.91%. So in reality, it didn't just drop 98.6 to 7.4. It dropped 98.6 down to 2.91. That's incredible. So anyway, so this net link flow here, you can see that it's a fairly large amount. So when we're talking about dropping link flow from 0.96% down to 50.5%, that's a significant amount of link flow that's dropping off, right? So that's not just a couple points or a couple units, whatever you want to call it. That's a fairly sizable drop. So what we're seeing here is an attempt to put more content to the front of the site, right? About this, about coronavirus and disinfectant and all that, hand sanitizer, all that kind of stuff, all these keywords. But in doing so, at least for the New York Times perspective, they have actually hurt themselves because they've actually diluted the link flow going to all these pages. So anyways, I thought that was very interesting to look at. I'm going to take a break here. I'll try to get as many of these as I can get done. I originally started to think that I could do this every night. However, I'm pretty busy, so I'll try to do at least one of these a week. If somebody is interested in seeing something really specific and it's hot and relevant, I'll be more than glad to head over to Market Brew and pop that in there and do one of these whenever. And if you haven't checked out Market Brew, head over to marketbrew.ai to learn more about search engine modeling technology. I've been building their commercial product for over 15 years now, and I feel like it's more relevant now than ever before. Okay guys, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.